So I guess our last show is also a topic in and of itself.
Yeah.
One of the shows that I'd been following over the course of the season was the last season of Food Wars. And, I watch it because I'm a fan. I think the story's pretty much run its course, and it'll be over in a few episodes, and that'll be it. However, this week featured an episode that I personally found pretty objectionable. This is episode 8, I believe, of Food Wars. And uh, without giving away too much for those who aren't watching the series, the episode is structured around basically one long continuous joke at the expense of trans women and homosexuality in general. And it's a type of joke that if you're an anime watcher, you're very familiar with. This depiction of the okama, or men partially cross-dressing, still keeping some of their masculine presentation, but engaging in kind of over-the-top, semi-sexual or lewd humor, often directed at straight characters who are therefore made uncomfortable by some kind of like non-consensual touching or aggression or other things that are played for comedy. And this kind of character pops up a lot in anime, but it can be treated very differently depending on the sensibilities of the production. One that's very well known from One Piece, you have the character of Ivankov, who is never the subject of any humor, even though that character is drawn in a humorous, over-the-top sort of way. In the world that they live in, this character is treated with respect and is presented as serious and strong and respectable. We had a conversation maybe a few weeks ago where we were talking about another character in another series. This was, what was the name?
Mario?
Yes, that's right. Where, again...
From Kakushigoto,
right. Where, again, this is a character that's representing a part of that subculture in Japan, but they're treated within the context of the world that they're in just as seriously as anybody else there. And though they're involved in some slice of life humor, the humor is never directed towards their identity. It's merely that they are involved in a humorous scene. So, with that said, I don't want to talk too much necessarily about my own feelings on it, since I'm sort of an outsider to it. I know that you've done some research actually more into like what the background, at least in Japan, would be, and maybe it's worth talking about that.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research based off of the limited ends that I could Google and find based off of LGBTQ culture in Japan. Considering cross-dressing in Japan, it's usually a gag or it's hilarious or funny, but it's been making its way into mainstream culture through entertainment, primarily through anime and shows. And I think you even brought up Hard Gay, who isn't even gay.
Right. This would be the performer and wrestler in Japan, Hard Gay Kamitani, who for a number of years had a character where he dressed essentially like a leather daddy and would go out on man in the street segments to not really harass strangers, but to sort of present them with uncomfortable situations that they're seeing him do and sort of get their reaction.
I found an article not based off of, and it covers a particular bar in Nichome, which is the neighborhood or the gay bar scene in Tokyo. And the owner himself, he's a cross-dresser, and he basically speaks on this in a manner where it's just a lot of men who do cross-dress, they do it to access their femininity, because masculinity, femininity, it's not just gender exclusive. All men aren't masculine, all women aren't completely feminine. You got your tomboys, you got your what do you say? How do they even say it? I guess in the South, it's your dainty boys. He got some sugar in his tank.
Right, fancy boys is what I've heard.
Yeah, fancy boys, stuff You have all kinds of different names for it, but there, it's done much more. I'm not gonna say respectfully, but like it's done with an intention. It's done for those men to explore their femininity, and it's not only done by gay men, but when it is done by gay men on a regular basis, they are very aware of how they present themselves within their own community and on the outside, because some of them do go out in public cross-dressed. And it's not like a huge scene or anything, but they are more concerned on how they present themselves because they are more tuned into or worried, or not worried, they're more concerned about LGBTQ rights as a whole. So those men want a positive light on cross-dressing, or at least just like a neutral light, because those men cross-dressing also affects the trans community. Because the cross-dressing men, they have really no intention to transition, while those who are transitioning, a lot of the time, some people who are transitioning, before they even transition, they start to dress as the other gender. And so if you have someone that is literally just like a caricature, that is literally like, hey, I'm a guy, I dress as a woman, and I'm like abrasive and in your face, and like I'm antagonistic towards women because I want to be one, or I want those features and I'll never have them, and you know, just fuck all you guys and blah blah blah, hee hee ha ha. That brings a negative light onto both of them, not just like the cross-dressers. It brings it onto the people, it brings it onto trans Japanese people too. And so when this came up in this episode, it was very weird to me because, like, as we talked about Kakushigoto, the way that Mario was presented was the perfect way for you to present a character like that. Was he a cross-dresser? I'm going to say yes, because they still refer to him as Mario. They weren't referring to him with a feminine name, so I'm not going to say that he was trans, because that's how they addressed him. But he was used in a comedic manner, and you said this before, he's used in a comedic manner, but he wasn't the butt of the joke. And that's the important part. And I think with this episode of Soma, because I caught up on the series specifically because James was like, hey, can you watch this episode? Because I don't feel comfortable. And I'm going to say that I did not feel comfortable watching it either. Not to the point where I'm like, you need to take this fucking shit down immediately. This is unacceptable. How would you even let them do this? It's more so just like, I would have not necessarily minded it as much if they had just like joked about it and moved the fuck on. But they didn't move on. They like spent the entire episode just like parading these cross-dressing men around in a negative manner.
Right. And it, you know what? Even though they were villains, it might have been acceptable if they hadn't spent any time, or the time they did, focusing on the audience and the audience feeling and their feeling of distaste or disgust with the activities and the look and the sort of presentation of these folks. If instead it had been, well, these are villainous, villainous group, and what people are disgusted by is the actual villainy, because they're bullying our main characters, they are being aggressive and rude. If instead the subject of that sort of distaste or disgust was common behavior that was not attached to their identity or their presentation, then I could have brushed it off. Yes, there might be some semi-transphobic undertones to the, the length of the joke and the amount of time they stayed on it. Yeah, fine. I'm also not someone who's going to pearl clutch too hard, because sometimes these jokes are funny, but they're funny as a part of a well-constructed whole. The other problem with having an episode like this is that I don't think that Soma, at least this season, is particularly good. And I also don't think that, even if you go back across the last 4 seasons, that it's a show that has the narrative and presentation chops to really handle something sensitive like this. It's a very blunt, fan servicey type of show that takes a lot of pleasure in stripping people of their dignity. That's sort of the it's played for fun, and it's usually not mean-spirited. Like, even when a villainous character, serves an amazing dish and it blows everybody's clothes off, it's not as if this person or the audience is supposed to be taking pleasure in the fact that, you know, there are these depictions of folks, you know, in an undignified way. It's just that, oh, they were so good, this is how we're representing how good they are at cooking, right? This was different, and I think that this was the kind of thing that felt outdated the moment they started down the line of the, you know, they pull out this like squad of salt shaking cross-dressers, and I'm like, it just felt like not something that I would expect in 2020 from anybody. And I know Japan has its own cultural history with both the subject of homosexuality and sexuality in general. It's very different, you know, top to bottom, and then also representation, and as well as bigotry and the use of like decency laws against people. So that's their culture. I have no comment about that because I don't know enough about it to say anything intelligent, other than, to me, it just felt out of place. And so I wish they had not done this.
I mean,
but here we are.
I think that there was like, if there was like a positive element of it, I would definitely say that like the theme of the competition at that moment was, you know, like a team kind of thing, and how they highlighted like what they did and the dish that they presented wouldn't be possible unless it was like a group of people who were comfortable working with each other and were like in tune and in sync.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, you know, like that is very like LGBTQ community focused, where it's just like sometimes the community is the only family you have because, you know, you are ostracized or you are abandoned.
Right. That's the funniest part about this, is that this could have worked perfectly well if they just taken out the audience shots.
Yeah, and also you have like a lot of depictions, because there's one in that like new Sherlock Holmes show where it's the same thing. It's a cross-dressing man, but he's called, or he or she, I'm not really sure if they're like trans or transgending, but they're called Mama, and the character is hilarious, but they're not hilarious as the butt of a joke. They're hilarious because of their mannerisms and the way they treat everyone. And also, like, it's usually those figures, when they're presented in a positive light, from what I've seen in anime, they're more of like nurturing figures who tend to be older than the cast of characters that the show or manga typically is focused on. And it's like they're in a positive light. There are people who have experience and they know how the world works and they know exactly how the world sees them, and they try to help others navigate that, even though they are not as outlandish or as accepted by society as the person that's giving them advice. So
right, and I think that that's the difference, is if you're leading with positivity, then you can lean into certain stereotypes and certain tropes, and at worst, someone can say, I still didn't find this to be in good taste, but it's not at anyone's expense. That's if you're sort of doing it with positivity. This just felt thoughtless. I think that like the reason why I felt so thoughtless is exactly what you brought up, which is that ultimately there was something interesting to the idea that a group of people who are ostracized in some way, or the audience, by the way, they don't explain any of this, but like you have to imagine that this is aimed at a Japanese audience, so they would just take as a given that is the theme. They don't ever really say this, but just leaving that where it is, that there is something interesting about the idea of they needed in some ways this tight-knit community in order to produce the harmonious, you know, cooking skill that then led to the dish that was so amazing. If you took out the audience interaction, like the gross out, it's fine. That you know what, I wouldn't even be talking about it. I would just said it was a good episode, good guys won, kept it moving, right? But it was that extra bit which I felt was probably not necessary. But I've probably spent more time talking about Food Wars than it even really deserves. It's a fine end to the series.
I mean, hey,
it's fine.
I really love the opening this season.
Yeah, opening is really good,
and it's really, really good. Nano, right? Is it Nano, right? I think it is her. Yeah, Nano, right? Like, she's been, I think, not exclusive, but she's done a shit ton of Food War stuff. But I will say that I caught up with the whole series. Like, I didn't just watch that in one episode and be like, what the fuck? So overall, it's just more of the same. It's exactly what I thought. It's moving at a much faster pace. I think the villain is not very good. which I mean, I think we talked about all of this last week, but like, it's just, I'm just echoing James. It's just like, I can see why people wanted it to end last season. But
Yes.
I will say, musicality wise, I'm really enjoying what they're doing because they are using the themes and the motifs from a lot of like the previous season's opening songs and ending songs to like evoke certain feelings. And like it's weird, like it brings up like a sense of nostalgia out of nowhere where you're like, I know this melody, what is this? And it's like, oh my god, they're playing that song right now. Okay, I like it. So they're trying. Like, it's not just like, okay, we're just gonna copy the manga and get this shit over with. It's like they are actively trying to make it something, or they're probably trying to make it better than what everyone hated about the manga. So who knows? It is what it is. I probably won't keep up with it until it ends this time. So I watched these 8 episodes back to back. I'm probably not gonna watch the last 5 or so episodes until it's over. I already know how it's gonna end. I'm pretty positive I know how it's going to end. We all know how it's going to end.
I will probably also continue watching it for the rest of the season just to put it to bed. But that's it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it might not even be the last season because they have the prologue thing.
What could they possibly
the epilogue.
do? This season feels like it's a prologue. It feels like it's a movie. You know, like that they stretched out over whatever.
Ooh, that
episodes.
is a good idea. Yeah, it does feel like a movie.
It even has like the generic
so
like movie villain where it's like, my powers, and I have all the powers.
And then they get wiped out and they're not canon.
Exactly, a non-canon whatever. By the way, did the is the My Hero movie canon?
No.
Okay.
The wait.
The one with 9 or whatever it is that canon? I still haven't watched it.
I don't think the one with 9 is. I think the first one was.
It is?
Because Homegirl, I think, shows up again later.
Oh. Wow.
But and they mention it in the anime. I don't think it's not in the manga, but in the anime, there's an episode that aired the week of the movie release where he invites them to the island. Well, he invites Deku to the island.
Oh.
At the end of the episode, and they've mentioned Homegirl in the anime again in the 4th season, I think.
All right, well, maybe I should watch it. I just stay away from them because they just don't seem canon. But yeah,
the second movie is not canon. I don't think that's canon at all, or maybe it's from further in the story in the plot line or something. You would know better because you read the manga. But that movie, I mean, listen, the choreography was fucking phenomenal in that second movie. Like, if they did one thing right, they highlighted everyone from the fucking class. Like, everyone. And everyone got, like, it wasn't just like, oh, we're going to highlight this person at the beginning of the movie, and then they're just going to be, like, standing there trying to help. Like, no. Like, they continually made the class shine throughout the entire movie. I enjoyed it.
Okay. Well, I
haven't watched those overs yet,
though. Go back and watch it.
But also, remember, you guys are supposed to watch The Millionaire Detective by next week, the first 3 episodes. So, because we will be spoiling that.